speaking. But first, we take you to the Milimani Law Courts where Seth Olale is on standby. Seth, good afternoon. Good to see you. We understand that the suspects of the National Youth Service scam are back to court. What's happening this time round?
Good afternoon, Ken Mijungu. Actually, these are suspects from KRA, Kenya Revenue Authority. But remember that the 18 who surrendered themselves on Monday at the DCI headquarters, well, they're right back here at a criminal magistrate's court. And resident senior magistrate Paul Mayova will rule at 2:30 p.m. whether he will grant them bail. Remember that this particular application by the defense team, they are seeking that the suspects, or rather the staff from KRA who surrendered themselves on Monday, should be released since they submitted themselves willingly at the DCI headquarters as ordered by the DCI director, George Kinoti, without being apprehended and without being arrested. And so they argue that by virtue that they honored that particular summon at the DCI and surrendered themselves, then they should just be released and they will honor any court summon. But the prosecution led by Anne Gitau, who's the leader of the state prosecutor in this particular case, is adamant. She's adamant, and she has rejected that particular application from the defense team, and she wants.
All right, we're going to go back to Seth Olale, but first, let's go to the Kenya National Union of Teachers headquarters, where the Secretary General Wilson Soseni is currently addressing a press conference.
Has Parliament debated the curriculum in this country? It has not. And therefore, you cannot roll out. You can't even call it a policy when the highest institution that makes laws in this country has not discussed. According to Magoha, the policy is one of the fundamental documents that will anchor curriculum, competence-based curriculum, which is already in its 5th month since it was rolled out. This is a clear case of putting the cart before the horse. You roll out, then you develop the policy. Then after developing the policy, you now want to seek for statutory instruments from Parliament. After getting the statutory instruments from Parliament, you want a national conference. What will the national conference decide over a process that you purport to have rolled out? This is killing the children of this country. And KNUT will stand to defend the children. We shall die with the children. We cannot allow business entities and dishonest Kenyans to engage in a process that will destroy children. The basic requirements for CBC for purposes of clarity on the ongoing rollout of CBC in pre-primary 1 to grade 3 is illegal and unconstitutional in nature. Illegal and unconstitutional in nature, and violates the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Worth noting, and as teachers will never participate, mark it, we will never participate in an illegal process and unconstitutional process. Worth noting, up to date, there is no approved statutory instruments to anchor the exercise. There has been no commission gazetted to manage the process, and the exercise is in total contravention of Public Participation Act 2018. You cannot pick people with business interest and a few technocrats at the Ministry of Education and call it public participation. This is exactly what happened before the purported launch of the policy. We cannot be invited as flower girls to go and cheer a policy that we have not participated in. We will never be flower girls. The Constitution gives us the mandate to participate in any policy formulation. The content of CBC is heavily borrowed from Professor Douglas Odhiambo Task Force report, which was otherwise rejected in 2012 by stakeholders. Once a report is rejected, it is permanently dead and buried forever, unless another commission is appointed to undertake that process. Worse still, it is laughable that the Ministry of Education, while developing CBC, is purporting to have benchmarked with Tanzania, South Africa, Malaysia, Zanzibar, Ghana, Burundi, Uganda, among others, where CBC has failed. And our research department is detailing reports of all those countries, how CBC has failed. And we can give you South Africa. Teachers taught it for 6 months. And because it couldn't work and they were not prepared, they boycotted teaching and reverted to outcome-based curriculum pedagogy teaching which they were trained. And that's how it died. In Malaysia, a rich economy, 15 times stronger than ours, the country shifted from outcome-based curriculum to competency-based curriculum. And competency-based curriculum in the long run is very low in terms of content of knowledge. Basic education means basic. The emphasis is greatly on knowledge. Malaysia realized the damage it was doing to its citizenship, and it reverted back to outcome-based curricula. And when the ministry tells us that they benchmark with failed countries, then they're telling us we are very sure it's a matter of time before we declare that this program has failed. And I'm saying here today, we caution them about the laptops. And the laptop failed via the reports of the ministry. Reports of the ministry, that puts it at 5% success. Yet 70 billion shillings has been wasted to deliver only 1 million tablets. Not laptops, tablets, 1 million tablets, which currently half of them are dead, dysfunctional, and the purported teacher training, which was undertaken by TSE, did not skill any teacher at all. So it is waste of taxpayers' money and resources. 70 billion could have employed all the required teachers of 104,000. And
well, the Teachers Union has got a lot of issues to do with the education sector. It's a story that cannot end today, and we'll definitely be following up on that story. Sharon Baranga will be reporting on it later on. Now, the non-involvement of the Senate in the passage of the health bill has escalated the bad relations between the two houses of Parliament. This morning, the Senate Legal Committee held an urgent meeting with the blessings of the Senate leadership to look into bills that have been passed without the input of the Senate, with the intent of prosecuting the matter before the courts. Our political affairs reporter Ken Mijungu now joins us with a live report from Parliament. Ken, good afternoon. And obviously, this is going to escalate it further, because now the Senate is not only looking at the Health Act, the Amendment Act that was signed into law, but they're going back. How far back are they going, Ken?
Well, Ken, and just to answer that question that you've asked, I'm joined by the chairperson of the Legal Affairs Committee of the Senate, who had been tasked by the leadership. What are these bills that were passed by the involvement of the Senate, and what is the way forward with regards to the meeting that you had this morning?
Thank you very much. I think we have, as a committee tasked by the Senate Business Committee.
We are going back to Ken Mijungu, who is on standby with the chair. Let's go back to Parliament now.
As terms of reference to do audit of all laws that have been passed without the consent of the Senate. Secondly, we are looking at options and also talking to the Council of Governors on how we can work together in this journey. Thirdly, is that we will decide to move to, if we move to Supreme Court, it will be advisory opinion, but we are looking at an option of going to High Court to get the stay, and also to request for nullification to be declared null and void that laws. There are so many laws that the Parliament, the National Assembly, has passed without the consent of the Senate. And you remember in Article 93 of the Constitution, the Parliament considers of the National Assembly and the Senate. So we'll be seeking for the stay orders, we'll be seeking for nullification. And you remember on the inside of this is that there are some laws that the Parliament did pass, like the security law. Some of the sections of the Security Act were declared unconstitutional. So as at now, we are reporting back to the Senate Business Committee, and of God willing, next week we'll have a Kamugunji with the entire Senate on how to proceed to the next step, so that we don't, Senate has a very critical role, and it is very important. When you look at Article 110 of the Constitution, when you look even before the President assent, it's provided under the Constitution, it is the bill of the, before gazettement, it is the Parliament, and Parliament has been defined to mean the National Assembly and the Senate. So, and finally, Muredi, is that if we don't take care, there is an attitude that has been developed by the enemies of devolution. You have seen they have have tried to cut down from 335 billion that was suggested by the Senate and the CRA. They have also tried to bring clawback clauses to try and claw back the devolution. And if we sit ground as the Senate, then it means there will be so many clawback clauses that will affect and eventually they will kill devolution.
But just at the face value of it, how many laws have you just found out? Because I do understand that you had a meeting with the legal committee this morning.
Yes.
How many bills, and would you just mention them by name?
No, but quite a number. That, like the health bill, there were regulations that were on elections, the issue of election voter regulation, among other education voter regulation. There are also the CDF bills, laws that were passed. There is the LTAC. There is quite a number of regulations. It's a dozen of them. And as of now, because we have tasked the Directorate of Legal Services of the Senate and also my committee, we will be able to give the country the exact number, because we are doing auditing from 2013 to now to see the laws that have been passed without the consent of the Senate, and it touches on the counties.
Thank you very much, Senator. Well, Ken, yesterday I had an opportunity to talk to the two majority leaders, that is of the National Assembly and of the Senate. And with the thinking of the National Assembly majority leader is that this is a rebellion that is being started at the Senate by the Senate majority leader, that is Kipchumba Murkomen. While on the other hand, Kipchumba Murkomen thinks that the National Assembly is acting in a manner that is not befitting their status. And the minority leader in the National Assembly and the majority leader in the National Assembly have both come together just to stifle the powers of the Senate. Well, it will be an interesting thing now, noting that the chairperson is saying that they will be looking at those bills that have been passed without their input since the year 2003. We'll be preparing this report for later, Ken.
Right, Kenneth Muredi, thank you, and we're looking forward to your report later on. The newly appointed government spokesperson, Colonel retired Cyrus Oguna, took his office officially today with the promise to revamp its operations and improve communication in government. Oguna, who had earlier served as a spokesperson for the military, was welcomed into the office by the ICT Principal Secretary Jerome Ocheng and the outgoing government spokesperson Eric Kiraithe. His entry now includes the daunting task of improving the visibility of the office, which has suffered from poor coordination, lack of staff and low funding.
The Office of the Government Spokesperson is mandated to coordinate communication across government ministries, departments, and agencies. Communication activities will focus to inform the public, encourage dialogue, and achieve awareness of government policies and programs. This is in line with the Article 35 that provides for access to information and Article 232 on values and principles of public service that provides for timely and accurate information to the public. My communication philosophy in this office will focus on dialogue as opposed to monologue. It will therefore be my wish that we work together with the citizens and share in their expectations and aspirations in life. I intend to maintain an open door policy for greater interaction and engagement with you and the public. My plan is to have a press conference every Thursday. This is the first one, this Thursday.
And of course, his predecessor, that is the Machakos governor, had press conferences every Thursday, so they've just come back Thursday afternoons. Now, Kenya has issued a fresh 210 billion shilling Eurobond, despite growing concerns over the sustainability of the country's public debt levels. Now, the issuance of the Kenya's third Eurobond in 5 years, the first and second Eurobonds, were floated in 2014 and 2018 for a total of 475 billion shillings. According to a statement by the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, the proceeds will go to financing infrastructure projects, supporting the general budgetary expenditure and repaying maturing debts. Various experts have raised concerns over Kenya's capacity to repay its debts, especially in light of the slowdown in revenue growth. And to Marsabit now, where Marsabit residents are calling on the government to deploy more security officers to the region due to fresh attacks that have left one person dead and left others critically injured. The residents claim security has deteriorated in the past 1 month, where 11 people were killed just last week following an attack at Furole town. Now, residents are now living in fear, accusing the security officers on the ground of not doing enough to protect them. Learning in the only primary school has also stalled.
hata saa hizi watuletee security hapa, ili sisi tunaweza kukaa tukipata askari, na kama hakuna askari hutaona sisi hapa tena, tutachukua watoto wetu, mali zetu.
Also, a man identified as a boyfriend to the 24-year-old prison warder found dead in Kiharu on Wednesday will remain in police custody for the next 14 days as police carry out investigations into Pauline Wangari's murder. Peterson Njiro was presented before the Murang'a Law Court today morning when the investigative authorities successfully applied to keep him in custody as they interrogate what they suspect to have been a crime of passion. The police are still searching for a man captured on CCTV the night she was killed. Wangari, who was described as full of life by her friends, was found stabbed to death in her home with chest, stomach and head wounds. It is suspected that Wangari was killed over the weekend. And back here in Nairobi, residents of MUKURU kwa Jenga say that they are living in fear of goons they claim have been hired by land-grabbing cartels to demolish their houses. They claim the goons have been making their homes for the past weeks, threatening them with imminent demolition.
Tension is high in MUKURU kwa Njenga as residents claim their houses have been marked for demolition. They claim that the goons came knocking on their doors at night, asking them to vacate the land they currently occupy.
Usiku na mchana watu hawalali juu ya tension ya watu. Wamewahi kuleta tinga mara nyingi hapa, tukafugusa. Sasa mambo imekuwa serious. Kila mtu wanapigia sasa hodi. Hama.
Usiku hatujarara, wanagonga milango wakiitisha pesa, mara wakiambia watu kama utoi, tunauza hii shamba ama tunaangusha nyumba. Wanaitisha over 10,000.
According to the residents, the piece of land was donated to the government in order to settle people, but the land grabbers have taken advantage and are now forcing people to pay for the land.
Uhuru mwenyewe alikuja hapa baka Jenga Primary School akasema, nyinyi ndio mwenye hizi shamba, hakuna msitishwe na mtu yeyote. Sasa hiyo maneno hatuoni kama imeshukua hatua. Saa hii tuko hali hatari, atulali usiku na mchana.
Tulipita round tukaambia watu wetu wasirare, kila mtu anunue firimbi na anoe panga, sababu wale watu wamekucha ni mikora, hatuwajui kwa nini wanakucha usiku ambao wangekucha mchana. Ilikuwa sasa
They are now calling on the government to intervene and solve the issue. Fatma Bugu, NTV.
Now, the Commissioner General of the Kenya Prison, Wycliffe Ogallo, has raised concerns over the alleged grabbing of land meant for the expansion of prisons countrywide by unknown persons. Accompanied by other senior officials in the prisons department during his tour of Kisii prison, Ogallo issued a stern warning to individuals occupying prison land in the country, saying the government will use all the resources to evict them. Ogallo added that the government was doing its best to improve the welfare of the officers. From prison service to the Kenya Wildlife Service, which has made changes in its senior management, with some officers directed to step aside pending investigations into various issues. Lynette Muganda, who was the Deputy Director, Human Capital, has been replaced by Valentine Kanani. Michael Odhiambo, who was Acting Deputy Director in the Corporate Services, has been replaced by Engineer Walter Ochieng. John Mwangi, who was Acting Deputy Director in Finance and Administration, has been replaced by Jafet Kilonzo. Leah Naisoi has been replaced by Christopher Olude as Head of Supply Management, with Wilson Korir taking over as Deputy Director, Parks and Reserves, replacing Edna Kala. Now, the changes include the reassignment of former Head of Corporate Communication and Service Spokesperson Paul Gathitu to the Inspectorate, as Robert Mwasia and Michael Kipkeo take charge of special projects at the Directorate or at the Director General's office. And the company in Nairobi's industrial area has been shut down for polluting Ngong River by releasing effluent. Following an operation by the National Environment Management Authority and the police, DUEL, which is located along the Gilgil Road off the Enterprise Road, was shut down. There was a heated exchange as the firm's management declined to accompany the team around the premises before eventually complying. Efforts by the staff to convince NEMA officials that the waste management system were functional proved futile. It was not established immediately what kind of waste was released into the river, which turned it milky. One trader has been arrested in Githunguri, that's in Kiambu County, after he was found repackaging uncertified maize seeds as the Kenya Seeds Company Limited product. According to the company's marketing manager, Robert Musyoki, the farmers in the area were complaining about fake seeds before they informed the police. 2 bags of maize and empty packets were seized from the same shop. Now the officers closed the shop to pave way for investigations. Fake seeds, I wonder if they get to grow and germinate into maize. Now, household products company Tropical Brands Africa has entered the cereal milling industry with a new porridge flour dubbed Nutripo Family Porridge. Now, the launch comes at a time when the porridge market is estimated at about 3 billion shillings. With the current stunted growth rate of children at about 24%, the porridge offers an easy access to children under 5 years to acquire the necessary nutrients. That includes vitamins, minerals, and proteins. Tropical Brands chairperson Linus Gitahi, speaking during the launch, said the porridge directly boosts the economy because the raw materials are sourced from the local maize farmers. Well, lunchtime porridge. Now, Kenya will host the first ever United Nations Human Settlement Program Assembly from the 27th to the 31st of this month at the United Nations offices right here in Gigiri. Now, the meeting will focus on innovation and bettering the quality of life in cities. The UN Habitat Assembly will come up with a Nairobi Declaration on the theme of the Assembly with the concrete commitments to action. Now, this event is happening at a time the world is experiencing rapid urbanization, which has resulted in shortage of affordable and decent housing. To address these challenges, Kenya has embarked on an ambitious journey to enable thousands of Kenyans access decent and affordable housing. CS James Macharia says the program is being realized in partnership with local and international investors who will develop the housing units while the government facilitates incentives and site development.
We have a program which is now, I think, expiring end of this year, what we call Kenya Informal Settlements. Kenya Informal Settlement Support Program, KISIP, also supported by the World Bank, the ADB, and other partners. These are the programs which help us to mitigate the growth of these slums, which we have in this country. As you know, we have this unflattering distinction of having the biggest slums in Africa. We want to get rid of it. And others which are coming up, Kibera, Madale, and Marigoine, and so forth, we want to get rid of these informal settlements. And that's why we are happy when we get partners like the World Bank coming forward to support us through these kind of programs.
And across the border, Sudan's Army Ruler General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan says that talks with protesters over installing civil rule have been suspended for 72 hours. The military wants the protesters to remove road barricades put up in parts of Khartoum, which has paralyzed transport.
Army generals and protest leaders had been expected to finalize the makeup of a new ruling body to govern Sudan for 3 years, the thorniest issue in installing civilian rule. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the chief of the ruling military council that took power after ousting longtime autocrat Omar al-Bashir, justified the decision to suspend the crucial and final phase of negotiations by indicating that the overall security situation in the capital had deteriorated. Currently, bridges, roads and a railway line have been closed, and there are claims that there is an infiltration of armed elements among demonstrators who are shooting at security forces. The much-awaited talks on transfer of power from the generals to a civilian administration commenced on Monday, but have been marred by violence that left 6 people dead on the same day at Khartoum sit-in, where thousands of protesters have camped for weeks.
And beyond the region, hundreds of people in a village in southern Pakistan have allegedly been infected with HIV by a doctor using a single contaminated syringe. Now, health officials say more than 400 people, many of them children, have tested HIV positive in recent weeks, as experts warn of a surge in infection rates across Pakistan due to the use of unsanitary equipment and rampant malpractices, often at the hands of quacks.
Parents were left nervously watching as their children were tested for HIV in a village in southern Pakistan, where hundreds of people have been allegedly infected by a doctor using a contaminated syringe. Dispatched to keep order, police scanned the anxious crowd as families hustled into one of 5 different screening rooms set up in the last month in the village of Wasayo on the outskirts of Larkana in Sindhi province. Anger and fear continued to swell in the desperately poor village hit hard by the epidemic, which authorities say could be linked to either gross negligence or malicious intent by a local pediatrician. From a ramshackle jail cell in the nearby city of Ratodero, the doctor denied the charges and accusations he knowingly injected his patients with the virus while complaining of being incarcerated with common criminals. Pakistan was long considered a low-prevalence country for HIV, but the disease is expanding at an alarming rate, particularly among intravenous drug users and sex workers. In a statement by UNAIDS, the local government reports around 600,000 quack doctors are operating across the country and around 270,000 are practicing in the province of Sindhi. With about 20,000 new HIV infections reported in 2017 alone, Pakistan currently has the second fastest growing HIV rates across Asia, according to the United Nations.
Right, time now for sports, and Sean Caravelis is in studio. He's next.
The Shindana Stars promotion.
To you now. Bandari host Tusker in the sole Kenyan Premier League match this afternoon, and it's taking place at the Mbaraki grounds in Mombasa from 3 p.m, seeking to maintain their push for a second place finish. A win for Bandari will move them 2 points above Sofapaka into second place with 58 points, while victory for Tusker would push them above Sony Sugar in 6th place on goal difference. Following this match, all clubs will have played 30 games each as the league realigns itself to global competitions. Gor Mahia can still win the league on Sunday should they beat bitter rivals AFC Leopards in the Mashemeji derby. Now, Kenya Sevens head coach Paul Murunga has made 3 changes to his squad for the London and Paris legs of the World 7 Series. Cyprian Kuto, Brian Wandera and Charles Omondi returned to the team after recovering from injuries. Murunga has retained the rest of his regulars, Vincent Onyala, Andrew Omondi, Bush Mwale, Daniel Sikuta, Eden Aguero, Daniel Tabu, Jeffrey Olwach, Nelson Oyo and Johnson Olindi. Captain Jacob Ojay is back after missing the Asian tour due to academic commitments and will be deputized by Olwach. The London Sevens will be held on the 25th and 26th of May, while the Paris Sevens is set for the 1st and 2nd of June. Kenya are in a tough group with Fiji, Samoa and France in London. National women's head coach Japheth Munala is facing a selection headache in the center position as the technical bench plans to name the final squad of 12 players ahead of next week's All-Africa Games qualifier, and that's taking place in Uganda. The position has attracted experienced and fast-rising players among the 20-member squad who have been on non-residential training at Kasarani. Among them, experienced duo Teresa Atuka and Edith Wisa, upcoming Lorraine Chebet, Gladys Ikaru and Caroline Sirengo. Munala's preparation for the national women's team has been boosted by the FIVB seconded coach, the Italian Shailene Ramdu. Munala is expected to name his final 12 players to the Zone 5 All-Africa Games qualifiers. Kenya, who are the All-Africa Games defending champions, will line up against hosts Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Tanzania and Egypt, with the winner of the week-long event bagging the sole ticket to represent Zone 5 region in the August Championship in Morocco. Now, the national Kabaddi team, who won bronze at the just concluded 2019 International Kabaddi tournament that was held in Taiwan, returned home to a heroic welcome. The team, which is sponsored by Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, went down 34-31 to Chinese Taipei in the semi-final before beating Japan in the bronze medal playoff. Kenya had beaten Japan 30-27, Malaysia 50-20 and lost to Thailand 39-38 in the preliminaries. South Korean Kabaddi team won the gold, beating Chinese Taipei 50-38 in the final. On their way to the final, South Korea had beaten Japan 44-26 in the semi-final. The team jets back on Thursday afternoon, and I understand they've also qualified for the World Cup, so congratulations to them.
Kenya! Hey! Kenya! Hey! Kenya!
8 times Olympic champion Usain Bolt was in Paris on Wednesday, where he unveiled his own branded model of electric scooters. Champion Pascal Ackermann won a cold and wet fifth stage of the Giro d'Italia in a sprint finish. The Slovenian Primož Roglič retained the overall leader's pink jersey, while injured 2017 champion Tom Dumoulin abandoned the race shortly after the start of the 140-kilometer stage. on between 3 and 5 p.m. and that's on 96.3 Nation FM. Back to you, Ken.
Just Nation FM will be tuned in. Thanks very much, Sean Caravelis, and thank you for watching. My name is Ken Mijungu. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
This is NTV.
Allah!